right, peace. Amani Naguvu. Hey, what's going on to the family? We are back with another uh, series or show of We Charge Colonialism Podcast and Book Club. Yo, I feel rusty, man. I'm feeling rusty right now, but we're back with We Charge Colonialism Podcast and Book Club. It's been a few weeks, so I'm excited to get back and finish up our current book, Speeches and Letters from Malcolm X. So we're going to continue on with that reading. I want to welcome everybody back to We Charge Colonialism Podcast and Book Club. I'm Ikemba Ojore, host of We Charge Colonialism Podcast and Book Club. Here with my comrade.
Good morning, everyone. This is Frank, host for the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series aspect of WCC every Sunday at 1 p.m. See you all tomorrow.
Right on. I was looking at one of those, man. 4 hours, comrade. Come on. Yo, I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna stay on for like 4 hours too, man. I'm gonna see how that works. I don't know how you do it. That's a job right there.
That's a spirit, man. That's an ancestral spirit.
Indeed. Hey, and with these these issues or these topics too, sometimes an hour isn't enough. 30 minutes an hour isn't enough to like really discuss these things, man. So definitely appreciate that, taking the time out, man. I'm sure everybody that taps in appreciates it as well. So we're gonna keep on doing what we do. We Charge Colonialism Podcast and Book Club. For those who don't know, we examine several books by African or Africans on the continent or in the diaspora. Their readings, their books. We examine those and see how we can apply it to the current times. Looking at that history, or even looking at current, because it's not all history. Sometimes we may be dealing with psychology, sociology, current affairs. So we see how we can learn from those writings and be able to empower ourselves to liberate African people the world over. And it is a struggle for liberation at the end of the day, because when we look at the political economy and who dominates it, we can't sit up here and say, with confidence that African people are dominating the international political economy, let alone locally. We just want to dominate or control our local political economy. And we're unable to do that because of this global system that we have been forced into. So We Charge Colonialism is about pushing back against that narrative, pushing back against that war on African people. So with that being said, we usually start off with our weekly roundup, and then we get into the book discussion in the second half. Before we do that, though, I want to encourage everybody, and peace to everybody that's tapping in. Encourage everyone to like this podcast, and make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Subscribe to the channel and share it with your folks. There's not a lot of people that's having these type of discussions. There are other platforms, but there isn't many. There's not enough, I don't think. So the ones that are putting in the work, we have to make sure that we support them, support us, so we can keep this going. Now, with that being said, we'll get into the weekly roundup. Did you want to? Did you have a story, Frank?
I have a story that I want to bring up. Not much important, but in some other way.
That'd be cool. That'll give me time to like reset up.
Yeah.
Because when we started, like all my windows closed for everybody that's tapping in. All my windows closed as soon as we was about to start. So I'm trying to regroup right now.
Mm-hmm. All right. So as we all know, recently there have been tension between Iran and Israel. All right. So recently, Iran have been bombed or Asia have been bumping Iran. And but again, like Nkrumah said, you are not going to have a lot of platform like this that will actually bring out the truth information to the public. So we only have been hearing one side of the story about Iran came and bomb Asia and destroy Asia, is doing to Asia, because I have spoken to a lot of people, how they call it, a lot of Africans, so-called Christian and Christian or so, and they've been saying, oh, it was Iran, I've been bumping Asia and all of those things and things. So I try to educate them that, do you think Iran will just wake up, for no reason, and then just go and start bumping Asia, just go and start like why would they want to do that? It had to start from somewhere. That's the same way they've been bumping Gaza, they've been bumping Palestine for rack of ages, but nobody talking about it and no one see it, right? But the moment those people how they call it, reacted, all right, and then that's a story we've seen, that, oh, Iran, I mean, oh, Palestine, oh, Gaza, oh, they are all the Houthis, right? So, but again, what made the Houthis, to just wake up, and start retaliating, and start fighting for their right? Because that's a story, and that's how people, are going back. So no, Iran did not just wake up and went to Asia and say, you know what, we're going to shoot Asia, we're going to kill Asia, we're going to bomb Asia. No, it was Asia that actually went and bombed, how they call it, Iran, and killed their citizens and destroyed the place. And that's how the people came, they retaliated. All right. And all of these things, again, are happening because of a reason, because there have to be a war that will spark. Like we've been saying, the imperialists are not going to give us so easily. They are going to fight. Who's going to die will die. Who's going to win will win. If they will win, they will win. But if they will lose, they are not going down so easily. Now, let's see here. All right. Let's see what happened here. Again, this is not to say, this is not a story that I'm trying to bring out, okay, in defense of Iran, okay. I care less, all right. But the issue here is the reality have to be discussed for the world to understand, so that you can be on the side of the wrong, okay. Those are actually committing the crime, and then you are on the side of the people that are committing the crime because of ignorance, because you don't have the information or you don't know what is going on. And that's how most of Africa or African have been, because they do not understand, and they are always on the side of the people who actually committing the crime. Now, it says US President Joe Biden reportedly told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin during a phone call on Saturday that the US will not support any Israeli counter attack against Iran. So now, as you can see, right, they are saying Iran was the one that came to bomb Asia, and Asia is reacting. All right, but let's see here. And then Joe Biden told the prime minister that you got a win, take the win. You got a win, take the win by bumping Iran, killing, how they call it, the citizens, right? Biden also said, Biden also advised Benjamin to acknowledge their victory, highlighting the effectiveness of their joint defense, the US and Israel joint defense endeavor, right? Now, let's see here. So the US support the killing, okay, the suffering of the people in Iran, Gaza, Palestine. So he just made it clear they are in joint support, how they call it, offensive or defensive support with Asia, right? But let's see what they said. Also, what they themselves say in this video. Now, this reported statement comes in the wake of heightening tension following Iran retaliatory strike against Israel. Retaliatory strike against Israel. So now, Israel was the one first that went and bombed the people and sent struck to the people, killed the people, and the people in return retaliated. The people in return also went and bombed Israel. So let's see here. On April 1st, Israel conducted an airstrike on Iran. Did you see that? On April 1st, Israel conducted an airstrike on Iran, consulate buildings in Damascus, resulting in the death of 7 individuals, including 2 Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps generals. Now, let me take it out. So, did you see that, right? So, it was Israel that went and bombed the people, right? Now, again, let me make this clear. The people said 2 of the revolutionary. In fact, this report is an American news media report, right? So this report is not from, let's say, Gaza or Palestine or Iran. They're reporting it, right? But listen to this. That target, that the 2 revolutionary that was killed by the Israeli prime minister, it was a target. They actually targeted these 2 people because they know the power, the worth of these, how they call it, Iran. And they did it. They did it to, how they call it, was it the same Iran? When they killed one of their generals in the Middle East. They targeted these people. They targeted them, killed them. And the people have to retaliate by you killing their revolutionary leader. America do the same thing on the African continent. They've been killing African revolutionary leaders. This is not strange things, African. This is not strange. They went and killed Gaddafi, a revolutionary leader. They wanted to kill, how they call it, Nkrumah, revolutionary leader. So it's the same thing that we are looking at here. They killed Amilcar Cabral, revolutionary leader. Okay? They killed Thomas Sankara, revolutionary leader. They killed Patrice Lumumba, revolutionary leader. I mean, the list can go on and on and on as we sit here and name it. So it was a target, okay, with those 2 Iranian generals to kill them. They targeted them and they killed off 2 of them because they are revolutionary leader. They see them as threat in that part of the region, so they have to kill them. They have to take them out. And in return, what do you think? The Iranian will sit down. They will have to retaliate. So people have to, sometimes do research and try to get the full story, then sitting down waiting for CNN, BBC to come and give you one side of the story.
No, absolutely, man. Appreciate you uplifting this, and this is a story that came out. What was this? This came out April 1st. So you can see that's not that long ago, right? Israeli strike on Iranian consulate in Damascus kills key commander, Iran says. So, to your point, definitely have to know that context. And some of these stories, we sort of get the the retaliation, and look at the person who retaliate from the action. They get caught, right? They kind of get caught with their hand in the cookie jar. We're just like, okay, those are the bad guys. And it's the same thing that happened with the initial October attack, right, on Israel. It's like, oh, look at Hamas, and Hamas gets painted as the instigators and the evil people. But when we look at the context, we understand Hamas was created or established because of the conditions, the oppressive conditions in Palestine. Israel occupation of Palestine. And so, and we look at the atrocities, the terrorism that has happened over decades to the Palestinian people. But I think when we think about how does this concern African people, we have to understand who our enemies are, and who can be potentially allies against those enemies. And when we look at Israel and we look at the U.S. and who the U.S. are number one enemy, right, and who they support, they're supporting them for a particular reason. They have the same interests, which is colonialism. Israel is a colonial, a settler colonial state, right? And they're using the same blueprint as Western Europeans, and many of them, are Europeans. If we look at it, most of them that are in leadership roles in Israel have migrated, not originally from that territory. When we look at the Zionist state that was propped up, the Zionists came from areas in Russia, Eastern Europe, and Western Europe to occupy that territory, right? But these are people who have a history going all the way back even to slavery. We even look at slavery. Like these are people who have a history or have bloody hands when it comes to the African Holocaust, the Mayafa, right? And that's a lot of times that's not even discussed. It's not even what they just doing to Palestine. These are enemies. These are people who have a history of oppressing and exploiting African people. So, and I think like when we look at even the art of war, and we have to standing on the sidelines is not going to be an option, because people are going to remember that, who was you supporting, who in this conflict, what side was you on, right? And I think when silence is complicity, silence is complicity. We watched the U.S. commit genocide against the U.S., Israel, other Europeans commit genocide against groups of people and not say anything, then who's going to say something when these acts, these atrocities are committed against African people? So no, but appreciate you bringing up this story.
And just to add up before you even come out, in fact, when Biden said, right, when he told the Israeli Prime Minister, right, to take the victory, right, look at that statement, take the victory. You know what that means? It means our mission has been accomplished. We win, right? We killed 2 of the revolutionary leaders, which we saw them as terrorists. So take that victory because we went and killed 2 of the revolutionary leaders. So their retaliation against you, by killing a couple of your people, by destroying few of your place, leave it, just leave it, because we already win. Because those 2 men that we have taken down, they were threat, they could have, gone to train more people, right? And they were not of good in a region to also take the victory. The fact that we killed 2 of them, take the victory. So even they can kill, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 of your citizens. The victory is we killed 2 most powerful individuals among them.
Yeah. So we're gonna pivot, man. This time be flying. Just so I quickly want to just uplift a few things. I'm going to get into the story. Actually, let me get into the story first. I want to talk about what's happening in Omaha. There's $20 million that was put into a Malcolm X museum out in Omaha. Let me pull this up. Man, there's so many ways I think we, angles to take on this. And folks in the chat, y'all can even, post how y'all feel about this. Malcolm X Museum to rise in North Omaha with boost from $20 million state grant. $20 million, that's a lot of fun. Funds were destined for the newest Nebraska Hall of Fame inductee, who also is his first African American. You hear that? Malcolm X is the first African American inductee into the Nebraska Hall of Fame. So it took to 2024. Before Malcolm, you mean to tell me there was no African Americans that could have been inducted before Malcolm? Even though like it's not even a big thing to me, I'm about I'm a separatist at the end of the day. I could care less about the America's accolades, awards, and so forth, right? But I know a lot of people do, and we can still have a conversation around it, right? Despite the contradictions, if this is what they're going to do, like let's analyze it and see how how they're moving forward with this. Like, what's their angle, I guess you can say. So let me just go into a little bit of this. A nearly 18-acre site in North Omaha, now mostly land, gardens, and a small former church, is poised for a multi-million-dollar makeover featuring a museum honoring the legacy of Omaha-born Malcolm X. $20 million state grant was officially awarded this month to the managers of the property, the Malcolm X Memorial Foundation, for the creation of a cultural education center and museum devoted to the slain human rights leader. And we should, I feel as though Malcolm should be acknowledged, and we do it all the time. We're doing it today, even with the reading of his letters and discussion around his philosophy. I'm just going to scroll down here. They talk about what the museum is going to look like and how it's going to bring revenue and people, tourists to Omaha. Lawmakers pursue Malcolm X Day. The vote to put him in Nebraska's Hall of Fame prompted a story by National Black Wall Street Times. Before we knew him as Malcolm X, Malcolm lit him Detroit Red, Malik El Haj El Shabazz, or Omawali, and one of, if not the greatest orator, writer, and thinker of our time. He, like all of us, came from somewhere. That somewhere was Omaha, Nebraska. So they're talking about a Malcolm X Day. It's not official. They're saying there may be some struggle to make that happen, especially so quickly, but they're looking to create or establish a Malcolm X Day out there. And then just looking at the Nebraska Hall of Fame, again, as I mentioned, I wonder if Malcolm, I feel like Malcolm be turning in his grave right now. Like him being, first of all, him being that only black face, right, or black representation. Because what Malcolm always talked about, he always talked about the token Negro. They turning Malcolm into that token Negro. It's kind of upsetting me. Nebraska Hall of Fame, right? So you see, it was established in 1961. And then they talk about Malcolm in here too. I'm on their website. So Malcolm X to be inducted into Nebraska Hall of Fame on May 22nd, 2024. Right? Is this a big thing? Is this an accomplishment for African Americans? But again, like me personally, I have a issue with it. I think at the same time, it's great that there's these resources, though. I kind of I do want to see the people who are doing that work to carry on Malcolm's legacy in his name, to get those resources, right? And do it. So there's a part of me that's like, yeah, do that. But then there's the other part that sees the contradiction, because Malcolm X was a nationalist. Malcolm X was talking about revolution, right? And it's the creation of this museum. Is this going to continue to carry on that philosophy and to incite people to want to nation build, to have a nation of our own? And I don't think that it's going to do that. It's the establishment of a Malcolm X Day. Will that do that? And who's heading up this, these initiatives, for the Malcolm X Day? What is their philosophy? Which I don't know. I don't know these people personally, but these are some questions I think we have to answer. Brother Frank, I see you over there smiling, man. What's going on?
Yeah,
What's on your mind?
I'm gonna dive into this a little bit, right? But listen to this. Like you said, we don't know who behind it, right? Let me this clear. When the Black Life Matter issue started, we didn't know who was behind it, and then we all went woo, because it was something that carried a name, a logo, Black Lives Matter, especially in that time period. At that time, because we wanted for the war to pay attention to Black crowd, to Black issue, right? To what Black people are asking for. We wanted for the world to listen to it. So and we kind of dive into it, okay, because it caught us. But then later on, we got to realize, the aim and objective of the whole Black life, and then we got to see the founder, of Black life, and then we later on we got to understand that even those funds that were collected did not even go towards the interests of Black life. Now today, what impact the money they collect at that time, right? What impact did they give to Black people according to the motto or Black Life Matter? Because as we speak, Black life is not yet still matter, right? We still going through it. But again, let's get to Malcolm X. Now, you said something and you said, why did they use Malcolm X? Are they telling us there have not been anyone that they can use? Now, that is not to say we do not want them to use the name Malcolm X, because let's understand this. We all know the philosopher and the ideology of Malcolm X. Now, in a country that Malcolm X was seen as an extremist.
Hold on, I think we lost. Frank froze, right? Frank froze. If you guys can still hear me, hopefully. Yeah, but there you go. You cut out for a minute. I don't know if that was me.
I don't know what's going on. But again, so are they telling us by doing this? Are they telling us they support the extremist idea? Because according to them, Malcolm X was an extremist. So do they support the extremist ideology of Malcolm X to be taught, okay, to be given to the American educational system, to the American public? Is that what they're telling us? But again, look at this. If you really look at the current contemporary movement within the United States, right? Yeah. You can see that Malcolm X have been one of the most talked about, and you can see even Dr. King, people are criticizing Dr. King, and that he feel the Black community, he feel Black people, especially going to that his speech, right? The dream speech. At some point of time, that dream speech, almost in school, it will be taught, on CNN, it will be showing. But now you can see they have limited. It's not being shown on CNN. It have not been showing on any of these news media. It have not even been showing on school, because Black people have come to realize that it did not fulfill. And in fact, before he died, before Dr. King was killed, he came out with a video. He himself said it. He felt that he failed his people by bringing out that dream speech. He felt that he led his people into a burning fire, right? So they understand that Black people have come to realize that Dr. King, that dream speech did not work, because he himself said, he confessed. So, and then a lot of people are now taking the trend of Malcolm X. So could it be a way to draw Black people, okay, to draw Black people into an idea that, oh, America have come to understand Black struggle? Because we all know anytime they try to do that, it never works. They try to accomplish an aim in their favor, and once they do that, and then we go back again, we sit. So could it be that they are trying to raise money again, just how they raise money for Black Lives Matter, and went into their banks and went, for the educational system of their children. Are they trying to do that again? Because that money that was collected during the Black Lives Matter era, it did not go towards Black. It went again towards the same college funding for white America. So are they collecting another money again to go to college funding? To go to institutions that are not for Black, to go to, let us look at these things.
Yeah, it's, like, there's a couple of things. For one, there's reparations. They're just looking at some of the comments. Brother Sayero, he's talking about how white folks felt about Malcolm in Nebraska and Omaha. Also, just like looking at the history, Malcolm's father was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he was murdered in Omaha, right? And someone in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong. But the Ku Klux Klan, or was that in Michigan? No, now I'm getting my history twisted, but if he wasn't murdered in Omaha, there was definitely an attack. He might have been murdered in Michigan. But the Ku Klux Klan definitely attacked their family in Omaha. I think that's when they burnt the cross, or they burnt the home of Malcolm's parents. And so the Ku Klux Klan was definitely active, and they were looking to run Malcolm's family out of there. And that's part of the reason I think that they had moved from Omaha. I know we got some other historians here, so I'm waiting for. So let me know where was Malcolm murdered? I think it was Michigan though, but it's still, my point still stands. So I'm bringing this up. This reparations. This reparation. When we look at resources, you're giving $20 million for Malcolm X Museum. Where's the reparations for the African people that lived in Omaha, the Black folks that lived there and had to suffer from the oppression and exploitation and the terrorism of the Europeans that were there, the white folks that was there? If we look at Will Brown was happening in Omaha. Look up that history. There was during the Red Summer of 1919. Will Brown is someone, and others as well, but Will Brown is sort of like the most famous case. Was murdered in Omaha. Black folks was ran out of Omaha during the Red Summer of 1919. So there's reparations, not just for Red Summer of 1919, but just for the history of Black folks and what they had to deal with, the history of Black folks in Omaha, what they had to go through. And the other thing is, how do you give $20 million? How's the state giving $20 million in the midst of a war? Because I still look at Black folks in America still at war with this racist colonialist system. So in the middle of a war against our enemy is giving us funds to erect a museum or statues or whatever they want to give money to in the middle of a conflict with y'all. So that's a serious contradiction, right? So again, I feel like these are methods or strategies that are being used to put Black people to sleep. Oh, we just gave you $20 million for Malcolm X Museum. We know y'all love Malcolm X, this fiery figure. We know y'all love Malcolm X. Here you go. We get $20 million. No, we want $20 million to erect our own, state. We want land. Malcolm, when he talked about land, he didn't talk about, resources for a museum for himself. He talked about land for Black people, for African people here in the United States. So, damn, man, look at the time. Yo, let's transition. Let's go into the book. There's an Africana Studies series lecture. If you look on our Instagram, we have, it may not be too late for you guys to register, but that starts at 10 o'clock. And I definitely want to encourage you all to jump on that series. I actually participated as a facilitator of a couple of workshops. It's a great series. Mike Africa, I know, is going to be the keynote speaker at 12, but it starts at 10, from 10 to 1. You don't want to miss that. I quickly want to share a couple of flyers because we're on the topic of Malcolm X. This May 19th, 18th, and 19th in Atlanta. Is that flyer on the screen, Frank? The Malcolm X flyer?
Yeah.
Yeah, Saturday, May 18th, May 19th in Atlanta, West End Park, also known as Malcolm X Park. You don't want to miss that. I was down there in Atlanta a couple of years ago, and it was a powerful 2 days and experience. Black folks showed out in Atlanta. So big up to Malcolm X grassroots movement for leading up the organizing behind that. Also here in Philadelphia, if you in the area, make sure that you come out. I'm a part of the Malcolm X Committee, Claim Malcolm X Day Committee, and we are organizing the 9th annual Malcolm X Day event here at Malcolm X Park in West Philadelphia. So definitely, if you can make it out there May 19th at Malcolm X Park, it's going to be another powerful event and experience. And we definitely want to talk about how we continue to carry on this legacy of Malcolm X. And so, yeah, again, appreciate y'all for tapping in too. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like and share. And let's get into it. So the letters from abroad, Malcolm X, he went over to visit several countries in what is known as the Middle East and Africa from April to May. I think he returned around May 22nd. I think it's interesting. No, May 22nd. Yeah, and it's the same date they erected him to inducting him into the Hall of Fame. But I'm going to start on page 61. I put the link to this book in the description, and it's also in the chat. So I'm going to just get into it for the sake of time. So this is Malcolm X. He's in Nigeria, May 10th. Each place I have visited, they have insisted that I don't leave. Thus, I have been forced to stay longer than I originally intended in each country. In the Muslim world, they loved me once they learned I was an American Muslim. And here in Africa, they love me as soon as they learned that I am Malcolm X of the militant American Muslims. Africans in general and Muslims in particular love militancy. I hope that my Hajj to the holy city of Mecca will officially establish the religious affiliations of the Muslim Mosque Incorporated with the 750 million Muslims of the world of Islam once and for all, and that my warm reception here in Africa will forever repudiate the American white man's propaganda that the black man in Africa is not interested in the plight of the black man in America. The Muslim world is forced to concern itself from the moral point of view in its own religious concepts with the fact that our plight clearly involves the violation of our human rights. The Quran compels the Muslim world to take a stand on the side of those whose human rights are being violated, no matter what the religious persuasion of the victims is. Islam is a religion which concerns itself with the human rights of all mankind, despite race, color, or creed. It recognizes everyone as part of one human family. Here in Africa, the 22 million American blacks are looked upon as the long-lost brothers of Africa. Our people here are interested in every aspect of our plight, and they study our struggle for freedom from every angle, despite Western propaganda to the contrary. Our African brothers and sisters love us and are happy to learn that we also are awakening from our long sleep and are developing strong love for them. So that was the Nigeria letter. I'm just going to read the Ghana letter, and we can kind of just, discuss both of these letters. So Malcolm X, at May 11th in Ghana, and he actually has the Ghanaian people have also given him a name. And I forgot what his Ghanaian name is. If anybody knows, put that in the chat, man. Put that in the chat. Because I know Omowale was a name that he received when he was in Nigeria, but he also has another African name. I arrived in Africa yesterday from Lagos, Nigeria. The natural beauty and wealth of Nigeria and its people are indescribable. It is full of Americans and other whites who are well aware of its untapped natural resources. The same whites who spit in the faces of blacks in America and sick their police dogs upon us to keep us from integrating with them are seen throughout Africa, bowing, grinning, and smiling in an effort to integrate with the Africans. They want to integrate into Africa's wealth and beauty. This is ironical. This continent has such great fertility and the soil is so profusely vegetated that with modern agricultural methods, it could easily become the breadbasket of the world. I spoke at Ibadan University in Nigeria Friday night and gave the true picture of our plight in America and of the necessity of the independent African nations, helping us bring our case before the United Nations. The reception of the students was tremendous. They made me an honorary member of the Muslim Student Society of Nigeria and renamed me Omawali, which means the child has come home in the Yoruba language. The people of Nigeria are strongly concerned with the problems of their African brothers in America, but the U.S. information agencies in Africa created the impression that progress is being made and the problem is being solved. Upon close study, one can easily see a gigantic design to keep Africans here and the African Americans from getting together. An African official told me, when one combines the number of peoples of African descent in South, Central, and North America, they total well over 80 million. One can easily understand the attempts to keep the Africans from ever uniting with the African Americans. Unity between the Africans of the West and the Africans of the fatherland will well change the course of history. Being in Ghana now, the fountainhead of Pan-Africanism, the last days of my tour should be intensely interesting and enlightening. Just as the American Jew is in harmony politically, economically, and culturally with world Jewry, it is time for all African Americans to become an integral part of the world's Pan-Africanness. And even though we might remain in America physically, while fighting for the benefits the Constitution guarantees us, we must return to Africa philosophically and culturally and develop a working unity in the framework of Pan-Africanism. So I'm gonna start with those two letters. We can get into that. You any initial thoughts, Brother Frank?
Absolutely. This was in the 60s, right?
You said, say that again.
I mean, this was in the 60s when he visited Africa, right?
It's 64. This was 64.
Okay. All right. Now, there's a reason why I asked that question. It baffles some of us in this contemporary Africa, how do you call it? Contemporary war, right? And then out of ignorance, and that what Malcolm X says in there, the American media, will give different perspective, okay, to dehumanize African on the African continent to the African in the diaspora here. And then they will go on the African continent and dehumanize the African in the diaspora to the African on the African continent. And in return, we hate not white America or not white Europe. In return, we hate Black America, Black Europe, and then we hate the African continent. All right. And that fight have been going on between us. And then you will hear African on the African continent. Oh, African American don't like African or this. And then you hear African in the diaspora. Oh, African don't like African American on the African continent and thing. But again, up to recently, because people have been traveling, okay, African have been traveling back home and they have been seeing the difference and they have been making YouTube videos and all of those things. All right. And it is bringing awareness. But this is a term. This is Malcolm X term. And then he went on the African continent, right? And not even too long, but he was able to grab the concept, all right, of how we have been misled by the imperialists on both sides, okay, of what is happening in America and versus what is happening in how do you call it, on the African continent with their media. And the truth of the matter here that I think we need to understand, and most of us we know, but again, most of our people do not understand. The point here is, if America or Europe ever praise you, that means we should actually fact check the reason why they are praising you. If they actually talk bad against you, the reality here is you are not being bad. But if they praise you that you are good, the reality here is you are bad. You are bad in a sense that you are not good for your people. But if they say you are bad, you are actually good in a sense that you are actually good for your people. And that's how over the year they have always portrayed. But the point here that I want to make is, and we are coming to the realization, and I'm glad we are waking up African in America are waking up to the reality in Africa, on the African continent, are waking up to the reality. Now, they say all these bad things about Africa, right? But while they were saying it, they were the same American and European who was never leaving the African continent. Malcolm X said when he went there, he saw these same white people who spit on African in America here. He's seeing them in Africa living and enjoying themselves and looting the resources, right? But they will come here and then says the worst thing about the African continent, full of disease. How can a place full of disease, but you are the one there? And then they will come on the African continent and say, oh, African American in America, they are taught, they are gangster, they are this, but they do not want them to go to the African continent for the African to seize the gangster. And they do not want for the gangster in America to go to the African continent to see the disease, all of these things. So that's how they have been able to play their agenda, to play, to their interest. But again, it is fading through the hard work of our ancestors who have traveled back and forth and who left these information for us. Again, it is also working out for us now because we have Africans who are also traveling on the African continent and seeing the reality and bringing light to the African world.
Nah, I definitely appreciate that. And just to raise, I know Omawali is Yoruba name. I'm gonna look for the source, but I know when he was in Ghana, I see that was mentioned in the chat. Let me put that up. But when he went to Ghana, he was given a name by I think the students of Ghana had given him a Ghanaian name. So I had the name before, but I just can't recall. So I have to go back to that source. But appreciate that. But yeah, I think these letters right here though, and I remember, Malcolm's talking about his experience with other Africans and their sentiment of African people, and he talks about this division that Europeans are attempting to create. Oh, well, they've already been doing it, but are trying to really exacerbate that at this time to keep the colonized Africans in the West from uniting with the Africans on the continent. Because there is a plan. We know that they're thinking 20, 30, 40 years down the line. So they have to keep the Africans isolated. Even on the continent itself, the movements of the movement of Pan-Africanism and Nkrumah's Pan-Africanism, who Malcolm in another interview says that we need to adopt at this time, right? We're talking about in the 60s and 64, he tells us to adopt Nkrumah's Pan-Africanism as an answer, right? And I think like in 2024, we can build off of that philosophy and develop it to our current state. I think there's fundamental, I don't mean to digress, but there's fundamental ideas that Nkrumah has given us that we can take and build on. I think Malcolm X, though, for me, Malcolm X developed a brand of Pan-Africanism himself because he was looking to organize the different communities in the West because he's seen Africans were doing for self. Africans were uniting and creating a brand of Pan-Africanism and bringing the Africans on the continent together. So Malcolm's idea was to organize Black people in the United States and Black people in the Caribbean and in South America, and bring them together and build the bridge to Africa. And so everybody was playing their part in the struggle against European colonialism. And I think like this is what Malcolm is getting at in these letters. He's writing back and he's talking about his experience, but he's warning the African American about the tricks of the European to keep us from connecting to Africa. This is why when you look at the organization, Afro-American Unity Program, there's two things that's mentioned in that program. He talks about restoration and he talks about reorientation. If you look at OAAU program, that Malcolm X and others, John Henry Clark, what they were putting together, restoration. He wanted to restore African culture. He wanted to restore the relationship too of African people, to restore that relationship with African people in the Americas, with Africans on the continent. Relationship that has been broken. He restore that history, restore that culture. And then he talked about reorientation, Africans in the Americas looking back to Africa, right? Reorienting ourselves back to the continent, because we have been looking away from the continent for so long. But here we are in 2024. This is 60 years later. And it seems like the European has done an amazing job of undermining that relationship that they were looking to build in 64. And I think with the death of so many great leaders who were attempting to build that bridge, the assassination of Malcolm X was one that was one setback that in the Black community. But there were other incarcerations and assassinations. We look at what happened to the Black Panther Party. We look at what happened to the Republic of New Africa, the Revolutionary Action Movement. These organizations who were attempting to carry out the philosophy of Malcolm X, and what happened to them to sort of stop that development. And so here we are in 2024, and we're faced with the aftermath of that. But I think that's an important thing. That's why these letters, I think not just these letters, but what we read today kind of gives us a glimpse into what Malcolm X was attempting to do, and also how he felt. So I appreciate it. It was something else though in here. I want to pull it back up. Oh, the part when he talks about when he's in Ghana, and he talks about with the Jews, the kind of Pan-Africanism that's sort of similar to what the Jews do when it comes to Israel. So this part right here, we said, just as the American Jew is in harmony politically, economically, and culturally with world Jewry, it's time for all African Americans to become an integral part of the world's Pan-Africanists. And even though we might remain in America physically while fighting for the benefits the Constitution guarantees us, we must return to Africa philosophically and culturally. So even if we don't return physically, saying philosophically and culturally, we need to develop a working unity in the framework of Pan-Africanism. Who this reminds me of? Marcus Garvey, though. This is what Garvey was talking about. Marcus Garvey, though he talked, part of his philosophy was going back to Africa. He understood that all Africans or people of African descent wouldn't make it back to Africa, right? But a united Africa, United States of Africa, could defend the human rights of African people no matter where we were. So in America, if we are facing oppression and racism in America, a strong Africa, a united Africa, can come to the defense of those African people. I mean, look at if we were to do something, just think about the power that the Jew in America is able to exercise, as a result. And think about what they're able to do to garner resources in defense of even the state of Israel, right? But we don't have that type of, we're not able to exercise that type of power right now. So we're at 9:58. Did you have any?
Yeah, just my last thought. I mean, what this year is election, right? American election.
Oh man, yeah, everybody
so,
going crazy.
Yeah,
Biden was just here, Biden was,
that. So don't be surprised. Maybe in one of their debates, you hear about, they are doing a great job because Malcolm X have been, put into the Hall of Fame, just to get Black people attention and their vote. Don't be surprised. Like we said, we don't know who behind it. So maybe this could just be another means of trying to get black people again on board. Like, oh, we recognize Malcolm X because, like I said,
yeah. If I hear Biden quote Malcolm X, I'm gonna lose my mind.
I mean, they what they are listening. They see the attention where we are putting our energy and then see, okay, so they are putting their energy here, right? We can go in here and take this from there and get them out. So they are seeing that we are speaking about Malcolm. I mean, if you see Malcolm has been celebrated almost all over the United States, and the only time people celebrate, for example, I'm actually going ahead. The only time you see people celebrating Dr. King, unless his birthday come and all of those things, but that Malcolm X has been widely celebrated. So could this be another hook that they are trying to get black people again because election time is coming? So like I said, don't be surprised and you hear about this during election time in one of the debate.
Yeah, I definitely will. I'm never surprised at anything the European does, man. He doesn't do things out of he's not ethical. He doesn't do things out of morality. He does, the means justifies the ends. This is the philosophy of the European, especially the European that is in power, right? And those who adhere to that philosophy, because anybody can take on a philosophy. It's not something that's natural or inherent to one group of people, right? But they developed a philosophy of the means justifies the ends. Sort of like the zero sum game. There's a lot of things that they, believe, especially when it comes to power. That belief system has them act in a particular way. Their behavior is guided by that theory. And so, when we see Africans start to adopt that, or any other group of people begin to adopt that theory, it's to the detriment of all the African people. So, we have to be very careful, and we have to understand the psychology of our enemy. And with that being said, though, appreciate everybody for tapping in. Again, Africana Studies lecture has started 10 o'clock. So, it may be too late to register now, but hopefully you registered and you're able to tap in. We'll be back next week at 10 a.m. our regular time. So continue to tap into these discussions. We're going to finish up this book next week and probably move on to our next book. And tomorrow, Frank will be on at 1 p.m., correct?
Yep.
1 p.m. So make sure you tap in to that as well. Appreciate you all. Till next time, Black Power, Uhuru, power to the people.